I'm still a huge believer that every customer needs Extend. It's almost like thinking it's not a skill, it's 10 business problems that you can solve. Every customer kind of needs it.
There's an association with like really, really awesome Extend apps when it comes to thinking of you guys. So to think that you guys would combine forces and start a company and do your thing is like so incredibly exciting to me. So I think this is going to be a great place to start. Incubane is obviously very, very new, but for those who may not be familiar with your company, can you just briefly describe what it is that your company does and what it is that you have in terms of a vision for the company as well?
So we are a Workday partner, but we are basically specialized partners. So we only gonna provide services that are either Extend services, so building custom applications, or built on Workday, so those marketplace stuff, and then also agents, right? So you can think of us as innovation shop. This is the only thing we're gonna do and focus, right? And that's what really makes us different in terms of the value proposition.
Yeah, I love it. And so this isn't your first rodeo. You obviously have a ton of experience with Extend. How is the process of creating an Extend app different from even just a couple years ago? What does that process of creating an Extend app for an Extend customer, how does that differ from creating an Extend app for the built on Workday marketplace?
So I think in terms of a few years ago, there's so much more possible nowadays. So Matt and I did the first implementation in Europe, and then it was still every time Workday came out with their updates, we just hoped that nothing would break, and every time something would break. And because that was the early days, right? It was early adopter program. But throughout the years, it has become such a stable product. And also in terms of the possibilities, the new features with AI Gateway, the AI widgets that are coming out. Basically, when clients now come to us, it used to be, we need to see what is possible with Extend, but now we can basically see, basically anything is possible, especially when we use AWS or those kind of services. When it comes to build on Workday versus Extend, the process is quite a bit different because build on Workday is a one-size-fits-all solution. So everybody is using the same version of a build on Workday app. So we need to make sure that it's configurable. And so every build on Workday app will have like an admin panel, similar to normal Workday configuration where you can hit checkboxes, configure drop-down values, all those kind of things. But it does mean that we cannot add customer-specific features in there. And we want to have features that work for all clients, or at least the majority. Of course, they can configure it. So there's still a lot of things possible, but the whole mindset is we are creating products that work for a very big group of companies, while Extend is much more customizable per client.
Yeah, absolutely. That is going to be so fascinating. And we'll get into the built on Workday marketplace in just a little bit. But let's back up. I want to know about the first time that you got to experience or see Extend. Can you describe that moment for me and what it was that was running through your mind in terms of the possibilities and where the ecosystem was headed?
First time I've ever seen Extend, right?
Yeah.
That's actually a cool story. I recently shared it with some customers. So I was privileged to be one of the first 10 people who touched Extend.
Whoa! Oh my gosh!
10 external to Workday, right? So like 10 external people from partners. It was a small group. It was very early days of even what was known as Workday Cloud Platform back then. I think timeline-wise, it was 2018.
Okay.
So it was a couple years before general availability, right, of the platform. I got involved, basically I was nominated by my partner back then because I was always very much into technical stuff and innovation and things like this. And I wanted to touch it for a reason that on my floor, in my building at the partner, our team was a very, very small Workday team. Couple people back then, early days for European Workday, right? Yeah. Next to me on the same floor was 200 or 150 people Salesforce team that was doing Salesforce stuff.
Oh,
And
wow.
massive part back then of Salesforce was already App Exchange, Force.com, however it was called back then, right?
Yeah.
So I seen with my own eyes how Salesforce is growing with marketplace, how it's a future. And Workday was always looking up a little bit, right, to
Yeah.
Salesforce, and it's a little bit like a big brother, right, a little bit more mature ecosystem, because just like Salesforce is leading CRM, Workday is leading HCM. So then I was like, well, this is probably what's gonna happen with Extend. Then it's gonna get better, gonna be bigger apps, better apps. Every customer will need an app, and probably in future there will be marketplace and all these things. And look at us 7 years later.
I know. Wow, that's an awesome story. That's awesome. What about you, Rick? What was your first exposure? Do you remember that moment that you got to taste Extend?
Definitely, because it was at the project where Matt and I met at the time. So it was for a Dutch customer. And it was a very cool customer who always wanted to innovate. And they just went live with Workday, or maybe even before they went live. And then Matt told them about this app thing that was coming out for Workday. So they were immediately excited. And I think we also had such a good use case for that first customer because they were in professional services. And basically, Matt pitched the idea of building a CV generator so that when they responded to RFPs, they could easily get CVs out of Workday, customize them a bit in Extend. And it was also a very quick deployment of the app. So I was really amazed that such a, still a complex use case was deployed so quickly. And it really showed that you can also use the people data for other purposes than just HR. So this was really a case that was for the business, actually helping sales teams. So it really drove adoption for that customer as well. So I think that was still one of my favorite use cases to date.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so Matt, you touched on this a little bit in your response, in your last response, but obviously the built on Workday marketplace, that was something that you thought about from your experience getting to see this whole team of Salesforce people build for their marketplace. Now that the marketplace is here, let's definitely touch on that, because I feel like this is just an aspect of the future of Workday that has not been talked about enough. But before we get there, can you all define kind of the way that you understand the built on Workday marketplace? What is it? Who is it for? And what does it look like currently?
It's a big question, right? But we're gonna try with a simple answer. The idea of marketplace is that Workday is an amazing solution, and it's a company that grew from serving one customer to thousands, right? Sizes ranging from 10 employees to 1 million employee, right?
Yeah.
And from all types of industries. So Workday cannot build solutions for everything, right? Just like Apple can't build application for everything. So the idea is that Workday wants to create economy for customers, for partners, to build those additional solutions that are maybe specific to an industry or specific to a geographic location, and they fill a gap that Workday will not build into, right? There are certain gaps, certain aspects, certain areas that maybe there is 20, 50, 70 customers who need something potentially, right? And it's not on Workday roadmap because it's already full. So then it's clear sky, right, for partners to build an application, to bring also their industry knowledge, to bring their knowledge, expertise in maybe some technical aspects, to solve this particular problem for many customers at once, right? And it's a really cool from economic perspective, right? Because partners can build something once and therefore offer a better value, time as well to deploy to customers. And customers get off the shelf, verified from technology functional perspective, a product by Workday, right? So then, partners develop it, but Workday verifies if this product makes sense from all aspects. So It's basically almost like a win-win-win, I say to everyone, because Workday wins, there's more and more offerings on the platform, Workday becomes a platform company. Partners win because they can build those products in those areas that Workday is not touching, and customers get more and more functionalities and experiences inside Workday, and they don't have to build third-party platforms, integrate with them, and so on and so forth. So it's a really nice proposal to basically, I would now the definition would be an easy way to extend your HR and finance footprint in Workday, right? With additions from partners.
Absolutely. Two questions just to clarify what you just said. I remember when this was just an idea and something that was being communicated previously, that this was also going to be opened up to customers as well. Is that currently the case or not quite yet? So can customers build on Workday marketplace apps?
At this point, it's still early stages of the program, so they also limit the amount of partners that can come in. They also are slowly opening it up to ISVs, so they maybe have their own software solution and they really want to have a full-on integration or even a part of it in Extend front end in Workday. But what we've seen, there's a lot of enthusiasm. So the Build on Workday team is also sort of trying to pace that a little bit to make sure that they can still deliver the right level of quality.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it makes sense, right? The upside is so big. It's so amazing. Even as a front end customer, we're thrilled about the new functionality that's going to be at the doorstep for us. But on the negative end of that, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with securing your customers' data properly, making sure that, an update to the app isn't going to break down the entire system or use up all the resources, things of that sort, right? So yeah, I understand and appreciate how Workday is currently rolling that out at this point. So my second question here is, what does the subscription look like for a customer interested in purchasing a built-on Workday marketplace application? Do they need an Extend SKU, or is anyone able to just pull an app right off the shelf?
Yeah, so basically you can go to the Workday Marketplace website, and there you have a separate category now for built on Workday apps. And for all of those applications, you do not need the Extend SKU. So basically you can just view the catalog and look at interesting applications. And there's a button to contact that specific partner, and you will contract directly with the partner. There's always a subscription model to the application itself, because of course we maintain the application, we provide new updates, but you do not need any additional SKUs. Maybe there are certain specific applications, for example, that build onto your talent SKU that you might already have. But for the vast majority, you will probably only need HCM or finance.
Yeah, this is key right here. This is what I wish people can walk away with at the very least, is that this is going to be an absolute game changer. Whereas previously you needed the Extend SKU in order to extend your Workday functionality. Now, obviously there's still, some sort of pricing model involved directly with the Workday partner, but now you don't need an Extend SKU. You don't need a team of developers. You don't need a team of testers, for your brand new application. It
really changes the business case as well, right? Because previously Extend, of course, there's so much possible, but therefore you also need to have a good business case around it.
Yes.
And now you can also have some smaller applications, some bigger applications, or maybe try out one just to see how it works before you go to Extend. So I think it's much easier for customers to start exploring these kind of applications than it was before.
Yeah. So obviously, you two have definitely worked on a lot of Extend apps. Do you have a specific favorite that you've gotten to work on? And if so, can you describe what that app does?
Well, so I was either accountable or involved or a part of Steerco or owned probably close to 200 Extend implementations.
Wow.
So it's a little hard to pick just one, right, that I like the most. But obviously, to be very honest, what I like the most nowadays is the new stuff, the stuff that is coming, right?
Yes.
So one that I immediately thought, and perhaps I'm stealing from Rick, I don't know, we haven't aligned on the questions. So the one that I really like is something that we are releasing right now, which is around check-ins functionality, right? The reason why I really like it is I recently went to London to talk with customers. and I ask them a question. Is everyone in this room, right? Did you ever have like a one-to-one with your manager? Or do you have a regular one-to-one with your manager? Or with your matrix manager? Or with your coach? Do you know anyone in your organization who doesn't have it? Or do you think everyone have it? And basically when I asked like, do you think everyone has something like this? Everyone said yes. It's a common process. Everyone has check-ins, everyone has one-to-one meetings. In Workday, in core platform, you can create like a check-in, so like a manager and employee one, but it can only be between two people. It's quite simple questions, answers, and there's no connection at all to the calendar. So what we've built is like an end-to-end automation where you can schedule meetings between the manager, people manager, employee, group meetings, one-to-one, many people. You can choose templates of questions. You can connect with your mail software like Outlook or Gmail. In Workday, pick the time that suits you best, then put the notes, private, public, click on a button, invite all the people automatically, then the meeting will occur, and if it's recorded, we will take the recording, we will take the script, use AI to summarize it, create summary, goals and everything, and finish the meeting, and then you can track all those meetings in Workday, right? So what it means is Workday suddenly becomes a master of probably the most important HR meeting you have every week, every single week with your people. And suddenly Workday actually controls those meetings. It can be connected to goals, to performance, to feedback, to all the modules. And all those meetings that you have are no longer in the void. All those discussions that you have with manager are no longer just discussions with no follow-ups or goals or performance input. It actually completes the cycle. And to me, it's exciting because it uses AI, of course, it's modern, but it also touches every single employee every single week.
Yeah, I love that. I love that a lot. That's the impact, the touch radius of that is so wide, and the application, it just feels very minimal in terms of like the manual input that has to happen, right? It just feels very, very in sync, very automatic. I love that. Rick, what about you? How would you answer that question?
I mean, for sure, that was also my favorite because it's just the newest one we are releasing. So that's always the coolest one. But I think where I've seen the most impact is also in the talent and performance space in general. So we've seen a lot of clients who have very custom performance processes, and you do see that Workday is quite rigid in terms of the talent and performance process. And then combining certain processes, like also having the promotion process embedded in the performance cycle. Again, I think AI can really play a big role here. If as a manager I need to do 7 performance reviews, for one client we created like automatic summaries of the year, right? Getting all that information from different places, and then a manager already gets a little bit of an overview of how the employee did this year. So I think in these kind of areas, Extend really shines because you can make the process simpler. You can automate a lot. You can have the meetings automatically scheduled. Because I think in the end, employees and managers want to spend as little as time as possible in Workday. And the more efficient and the easier you make it, I think that's really where you win people over.
Yeah. I'm really fascinated with even how this idea came to be. I'm sure you two get to talk to a ton of customers, and that's a little bit of where you got the source for this idea. But I think in general, I think people struggle in this area of trying to come up with a business case, a business purpose for the Extend SKU, and really just in general, a business use case for a Workday feature. How do you all think about that? Where do you see kind of the use of Extend versus maybe looking towards the built on Workday marketplace? How do you distinguish where each tool could potentially be beneficial for customers?
Well, from a customer perspective, I'm still a huge believer that every customer needs Extend. I really think
Fascinating. Okay.
It's the first SKU I'm thinking about in terms of SKUs I could use. Because what you're getting is a platform that can solve many, many challenges, many, many problems that you have. One simple example that I have is I recently worked with a customer who bought Extend to decommission an existing third-party system that was costing a ton of money every year, right? A massive subscription, an integration, compliance, maintenance of the vendor, all those aspects. They got rid of it and use Extend to build an app to fill this requirement. It was around technical competencies, something that is core to their business, how they manage. And now they own it. Now they don't have to pay subscription for it. And this one use case alone, I think, was a good enough business case to buy Extend. And when you buy Extend, you can get, a bundle of 10 apps. So it's almost like thinking it's not a SKU, it's 10 business problems that you can solve. And whether it's decommissioning those third-party systems or whether it's optimizing processes, every customer kind of needs it. And now Extend also will be a massive part, the Extend Professional will be a massive part of agents. So it's almost like a question that you have to ask. Do I plan on using AI in HR, AI in finance in my organization? Do I want to have some optimized processes? Do I want to have agents in the next 2-3 years? If the answer is yes, then you need Extend. Essentially, you need Extend to really benefit from the revolution that is happening, right?
Yeah.
So that's almost like Extend is like a separate topic. For me, every customer I talked with needs Extend, right? Sometimes it's just about the timing, right? But the timing is now. The revolution is happening. You are either on top of AI revolution or you're behind. Built on Workday to me is a separate discussion. It's basically, is there a problem that you have? And the question is, for whatever problem, challenge you have, the answer is yes. So then the first thing you should do is check the marketplace. Has someone solved it for you, right? And if yes, then you should review the solution if it meets your requirements and understand the pricing, if the pricing is competitive versus building it on your own, right? So let's say check-ins, right? Do I need check-in application? The answer is yes. I have a challenge with that. I would go to marketplace, I would check the Incubane solution, and then I would compare it versus my requirements, because my requirements have to be met by the product. If the requirements are met, then I would understand the pricing and try to understand if Incubane's offering is good, which it is very good. and then I would procure, because I don't want to rebuild the wheel, essentially, right? But for a lot of challenges, they're not going to be a marketplace solution. So then Extend is the right path, right? So it's a balance. To me, in 3 years' time, that's a prediction. In 3 years' time, I think more than 50% of customers will have Extend. Right? It will be you'll become a minority if you don't have Extend, and probably already 30% will have at least one app built on Workday, maybe even multiple. In 7 years or 8 years, I think everyone will have Extend and everyone will have built on Workday apps. Many people will probably have 50 apps.
Yeah, absolutely. I can totally see that world as well. I've never heard that put in the way that you just put it, right? The AI agent case, that business case, is only solvable through Extend at this point, right? Outside of Workday's delivered, agent SKUs and stuff like that, right? If you want to do anything outside of that, it requires Extend. So that is really, really, really fascinating. So just to make sure that I'm understanding correctly, in an ideal situation at the ideal customer, they would have an Extend SKU, and that Extend SKU would essentially serve as a safety net, right? Not to necessarily jump to use that Extend SKU right away, right? But instead, take a look at the built on Workday marketplace to see if there's a solution there already, to see if the requirements match the requirements that are necessary, pricing works, and everything works out there, right? So the priority is really see if someone has solved that in built on Workday marketplace in a way that we can afford it and that actually solves the problem for us as well. And if not, we'll jump to our safety net of Extend and see if we can take a DIY approach to that. Is that kind of what you're aiming at?
Yeah, essentially the algorithm is very simple, right? First question, is it HR or finance related? If the answer is yes, then it should be in Workday. You bought and invested in the platform. The second question is it available in core platform? Can you get it from Workday? If the answer is yes, you should get it from the core platform. If the answer is no, is it available on the marketplace? If the answer is yes, you should check if it meets your requirements and the pricing is okay.
Yeah.
If the answer is no, then Extend is the way to solve this problem, right?
Yeah.
So that's almost like a 3 decision.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing I always see at customers, when you are in HR technology, the business always wants the next shiny solution, right? So
Yes.
they see somewhere on a conference, they see a nice application, and all of a sudden you have this landscape of I don't know how many HR or finance apps. And the technical debt becomes massive. So, of course, you have the license cost, but also the integration cost. Users will get very confused. Okay, now I need to do my feedback in this separate tool. So I think as Workday people, of course, Workday also has its challenges, but I think together with Extend, you can do so much in Workday. So I think that's really something that we should all try to do. First, see if we can solve it in Workday Standard, then build on Workday, and then Extend, because that will save you a massive amount of time and investment in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. This is so eye-opening because it feels like right now Extend is just kind of a nice to have. It's not a necessity, right? But I'm walking away from this conversation believing that sure, it may still be a nice to have at this point for most customers, but that will quickly transform into a necessity, especially as the AI capabilities and the built on Workday marketplace starts to build up with solutions that are available. So that is so fascinating. Let's talk about the built on Workday marketplace, because I can see where this fundamentally changes the way that we support Workday as Workday administrators. So I think there's not really a better way to describe it except for with this. It feels like we're headed towards a perfect storm where AI functionalities, Extend, and then the built on Workday marketplace are all really coming up together and like facing each other head on. And it's exciting and really cool to see exactly where it's going to head. But again, I can see where this fundamentally changes the way that I support Workday. So what are your thoughts on how all of this meets together and how it'll change the way that we support Workday as Workday administrators?
Big question again, right?
Yes.
So it is a perfect storm, as you say, right? We are all talking about the, of course, revolution that ChatGPT started, OpenAI, all the things that were happening even before, because we have to remember Workday was investing in AI for decades before ChatGPT started, right?
Yep.
But it was really a tipping point for the world, the GPT revolution, right? And then we have marketplace, and then we have agents now and all those things. We are in the middle of revolution, right? Mm-hmm. And when we talk with customers, there's not a day that AI and agents are not mentioned, right? Mm. What's going to happen in Workday, but also in the world outside of Workday, is a fundamental transformation of workforce management, of how we perceive workforce, of how we perceive engagement with employees, or what tasks are the back office tasks versus the agent tasks, and so on and so forth. And it's also a transformation probably of people's jobs, right? Mm-hmm. Some will reskill and change, some will focus on more strategic aspects, and so on and so forth. What's coming essentially, right, is redefinition of how we perceive Workday, a redefinition how we engage with employees, aka agents as well, and chatbots, a redefinition how we perceive HRIS from doing changes in Workday to advising more strategically on implementations of software. Probably the time to deliver software, time to deliver change will drastically reduce as well. We are only going to speed up, right? If you think the world is crazy or been crazy last 10 years and the amount of changes is crazy, I think it will only be quicker. It can only accelerate right now. We have customers who are still unsure how to approach, but there are also customers, like even today we talked with a customer who doesn't want to start implementation of one agent. They want to start 5 at the same time, right? They want to touch 5 different areas and immediately start with multiple different agents. So I think the big question that every listener has to ask themselves is essentially which group I want to be part of. Those frontiers, early adopters who are basically the challengers of the status quo, or am I more cautious and I want to be kind of behind, right?
Yeah.
I think very often you can't afford to be behind, essentially, right? So it's almost like now it's time to act. Like my advice is research, but also start doing, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there There's so much that you can do with AI at this point, even outside of Workday, just freely, with some of the more proprietary models. There's just so much that we can be doing, experimenting, learning about the limitations, because that limitation is just very temporal, very, very temporary. It's going to change even next week, right? So that is really, really interesting. I think one thing that you two touched on a little bit earlier in the conversation as well is just what all is going to be impacted through the Built on Workday marketplace. Something along the lines of like a simple integration between two companies, Workday and an external company. If that external company invests in a Built on Workday Place app, well, that integration just got way easier. It's virtually like very, very minimal work, especially compared to building that integration, even through just a Workday delivered template. It just got way easier, right? So yeah, to your point, Matt, I think I can see where the speed to development, the speed to the ROI just becomes virtually not, like that time between those two things is non-existent almost. And so you're going from a role of implementation, configuration, and to a certain extent will still be there, but you'll also have a lot more time for strategy and trying to make determinations as to what to tackle next versus being in the weeds doing it yourself. I love that.
I think our jobs will change fundamentally. So I was behind the buttons doing configuration for a long time. And of course, that will still be necessary the coming years. But you also see the coding models, how fast they are growing. Community now is AI search. I wouldn't say it's perfect yet, but I can definitely imagine that HRIS teams will be able to do more with less people once these AI tools really kick in. And to your point, Christian, these integrations that are from Built on Workday, you don't need to maintain those. Those are maintained centrally, and the same goes for the applications that we are building. Of course, there's some tweaks to it, some minor configuration, but I think all of us need to look into the future a little bit and see, okay, what will my job be in 3 years or in 5 years? Because if you continue to just do the same, at a certain point you will be obsolete.
Absolutely, yeah. So no one knows exactly how all of this is going to look in the future or where the capabilities ultimately land. But it sounds like you two think about this a lot. With having maybe a clear picture of maybe not necessarily exactly where we land, but the possibilities that AI are now going to make available to us, what's your hope? What's your vision for actual extend apps or even built on Workday applications there? What's something that you're building now that you're currently like really, really excited for? And you can feel free to be as specific or generic as possible here. I'm just curious to know what it is, what action you're taking based off of that information that you just shared.
I think obviously some of the things we want to keep close to our chest
no worries.
for a moment, but vision on a high level is very simple, right? We believe that AI can enhance the way Workday will work, right? We believe that AI will also enhance the communication with workers, with end users, right? The way that we interact with them. We believe that we can drastically decrease the time of maintenance or, simple configuration tasks, simple things in the system. We think we can make the systems like Workday much better connected with other systems as well, right? Give back time again to HR, to finance, to do strategic stuff rather than configuration changes and simple changes and maintenance, right? And utilize it with especially agents, right? So to give one example, maybe, right? A lot of time people spend on creation and reorganizations in Workday, right? Creation of organizations, changes. Let's say I need to move 5 people from one manager to another manager, some change job processes, and so on and so forth. The challenge there is that very often the requestor is not necessarily trained how to do it. They're not necessarily familiar with change job and the complexity of the process. People also get lazy and they do tickets, right? I want to change something. I send an email, I send a ticket. When managers and end users perceive the data is really different than the way system perceives the data, right? I am a manager and I think of it as Rick is changing his office from one building to another, or maybe he's moving to a different country and he just changes the hours or whatever. people don't really understand the complexity of some of those tasks.
Yeah.
So that's where a conversation with an agent guiding the user on submission of the data, agent proactively showing the policies, how the company works, answering those questions, guiding the user through the process of change job as an example, or manager through changing organization, then proactively reaching immediately to HR for approvals, drastically decreasing the time needed, HR just saying yes, and then agent committing those changes in the system for HR. So no more configuration, no more clicking, just agent doing all of this for you. It kind of achieves all of it. Drastic decrease of the time to deliver. Much better user experience for HR and for end users especially. And finally, no more configurations, no more things like this because it's automated. So suddenly HR will have more time to do strategic things rather changing location in Workday as an example, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think if we look at like the startups in the AI world, we can already see what will happen with Workday. So one of my favorite startups is Lovable, which is like an AI tool to build websites. And I showed it to a customer 2 weeks ago where I had this game we always played in GMS where you need to do like a puzzle hunt when there was a go live. And now I created this prompt where we created this whole website which was fully gamified, where you need to go to Logan McNeil's profile to this and this, and you get points, you get medals. But the whole thing was built in like 5 minutes with AI, and especially for people who don't have a technical skill set, I think that will also change with Copilot. Workday Extend Copilot is already very good, but I think probably you still need some tech skills with it, but that will also be very different in a year. If we compare it to a year ago, I think the changes are going so quickly that it will be very useful for functional people as well.
Yeah, this is a perfect segue to kind of my next thought and next question here. I love to discuss career pathing, kind of advice, especially from a career standpoint from you all. So Rick, you just touched on something, with the Extend Copilot. What are the skills do you feel HRIS administrators should now be investing in order to stay ahead in this coming landscape?
I actually recently gave a talk on exactly this topic, but it's a bit
nice.
too long to repeat. But a few of the key skills that I think will be very important is tech fluency. So you don't need to be a techie, but you do need to understand all the things that are happening around these developments. So just hearing the term agent is enough, right? And look at some videos, really try to understand the concepts and staying up to date on those new technologies. It's going quicker and quicker, to Matt's point. I think really doing some process deconstruction, taking a step back and revisiting what is the goal of a process, what are like the hidden assumptions, and then doing a full redesign with all the new tools in mind. I think you will reap great benefits of doing that on a regular basis. And to me, stakeholder management will be a key going forward, because you can have a really nice tech solution, but if nobody's using it, if you don't have the buy-in, if you don't have the sponsorship, I think that's something that AI won't do at this point yet. And I think the last one that I would add is also ecosystem thinking. So really stepping out of your bubble, talking to other customers, talking to partners, and also to different departments, right? Because agents won't be reserved only for recruitment, right? They will go over department lines. So you need to be able to also work with the financial teams on the impact there, and really seeing those connections between departments will be more important than ever.
I think, Rick summarized it well, right? Some core skills will stay the same, like stakeholder management, change management, communication skills, and so on and so forth. But essentially, the world is going through enormous change. And it's not the first time, right? You were riding a horse and suddenly you had to learn how to drive a car. Yeah. You were using pagers and you had to learn how to use a cell phone, right? You were checking the encyclopedia for all the things, and then you started using wiki and internet, right? And obviously you were writing all your theses like us and doing homework yourself, and now everyone is doing it with ChatGPT, right? I assume. So this is the same. If you don't want to stay behind as HRIS administrator, you have to learn how to use those apps, but even how to reconfigure them, how to push innovation, how to get built on Workday, how to build those extend apps yourself, right? Because in a way, we're moving into a world that you tell the robots what to do, you tell the code how to write an app, right? You're more of a doing description of business problem, less of actual hardcore coding, right? Obviously, there's always a place for hardcore coding, right? But the world is changing. It's almost like it becomes really strategic business partner to offer them a solution to real life problems, right? And you cannot be afraid of technology. Like that's my advice. You have to get into technology. The world is going this way. You cannot continue to ride on the horse. You cannot continue using the pager. Yeah, right? You have to actually move on.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I can 100% see a world where the Workday ecosystem is always just going to share with each other, right? But instead of sharing step-by-step, exact, defined, concrete configuration steps, we're sharing patterns, we're sharing strategy, we're sharing, hey, we were able to solve this problem in this way with these guardrails and this API call, right? It's going to be a lot less, I guess, defined in a way that we can kind of share those exact same definitions, but there's still patterns that we can draw from. There's still overlap that we can, draw from. And I think the strategy aspect of that is going to be the major change, right? We're not necessarily going to be in the weeds. And I think we're going to be called upon to be more strategic as to what it is to tackle next, what it is that makes sense, and what it is that doesn't make sense. So I love that. I love that a whole lot. All right. So I know that we're running close on time, and I want to be super respectful of your time here. My last question is just one that I always ask all of my guests. What is your biggest piece of advice that you would give to any Workday administrator out there looking to move forward in their career? Absolutely.
Be open-minded, be curious, right? Even though your background might be a business from school, right? Or whatever, the future might be that you will become an application architect. Be open-minded to things that are different than you expected. The world is changing, right?
Yeah. I love that.
My advice would be to always be out your comfort zone, at least for part of your working time, right? If you are coasting and you are basically doing fine, then you are also standing still in terms of growth. And I had the same in my career at certain points as well, where I was like, now I know how to run a Workday implementation because I've done it a couple of times. And I think that's the moment to take a step back and to think about, okay, how can I continue to challenge myself?
Yeah, I love it. Well, listen, guys, I really, really appreciate your time here. I am so excited that you guys are starting this company. I'm so excited that you guys are hitting the ground running. Your content on LinkedIn is fabulous, fabulous. So keep up the great work. Really loving all the stuff that you're putting out. I cannot wait to see what applications, what AI agents you guys put out in the future. I am just so pumped because I really do think that you all are going to be leaders in this ecosystem and very much leaders in the built on Workday space. So really, really thrilled to see what the future holds for you guys. Actually, one last question for those who are just curious on following up. How can people reach out to you? How can they follow up with you?
Well, for me, the easiest thing is just connect on LinkedIn and I will pop on your feed on a very regular basis until I start annoying you.
LinkedIn is the easiest, right? I think Rick is very, modest. I think he might be the biggest LinkedIn influencer in the whole ecosystem.
I believe it.
How many friends you have? I'm sorry, like 10,000, 11,000?
Friends, very little, but a lot of connections on LinkedIn.
That is amazing. I mean, it's absolutely worth it, right? Your content is amazing, amazing. By the way, that Office commercial, brilliant. I saw that and just thought, yeah, these guys are going to crush it.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun creating that one.
Yeah. I'm sure it took like 20 hours to make. Awesome. Well, thank you guys again. I really, really appreciate it. And hopefully this is just conversation one of many.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to this conversation. Be sure to check out the helpful links and resources mentioned in the conversation in the podcast show notes below. Also, be sure to connect with me on LinkedIn and Twitter to stay in the loop about future podcast episodes and Workday tips. I'm Christian Delsid on LinkedIn and at cdelsid21 on Twitter/X. I would love to hear any feedback about how to make this podcast better, so be sure to subscribe, connect with me, comment, and share with others. Thank you so much again. Have a great day. The Unsafe Harbor podcast is my personal passion project, and it is completely separate from my role with my current employer or the Workday organization. The ideas expressed on this podcast are my own and do not represent my employer or the Workday organization.